Mind, the time is 23 minutes to midday, and we're saying good morning to Collie McFadging because it is time to talk movies. Good morning, Collie.
Good morning, and I suppose, is it too late to say Happy New Year? It's the first time
I'm giving you one Happy New Year.
Okay, that's one Happy New Year. On one very, obviously one big Nolan the Man as well. Big
yes,
important
exactly,
day,
yeah.
and a great cinema day because let's face it, there's mammies all over Donegal that have done all the work now, and maybe we'll be able to mention something that maybe even they've been to the cinema, but they've been on a family trip to the cinema, and there might be some things coming up that they would really like to go and see.
And there is plenty knocking about there at the moment.
Yeah, there's still good stuff because it was the 8th. I think it was the 8th that we were on last of December, and there's been an awful lot of changes. Obviously, the headliner has been Wonka. It has been a huge hit.
Yeah.
All over Christmas, and it really has done the business for almost everyone. I don't know, did you catch up with that one yet?
Haven't caught it yet.
Yes.
Yet being the operative word, but it's on the list.
One of the reasons I was thinking of the likes of yourself was because, for example, I know for a fact in one of the cinemas I'm involved with, they had a big family party. It's a 50th birthday, but they wanted to bring everything from 5-year-olds to grannies and granddads, and that's the movie they picked, and it worked a treat. It is. We're going to mention this earlier. It is a musical, and even though lots of people have played down the fact that it's a musical on the trailer, I don't think you'd know it's a musical. But it is just a lovely feel-good movie. It doesn't try and replace the other one. It's just a nice, Christmassy, fun movie for all the family, and there's always been a place for that.
It embraces the original, what do we call it, universe?
Yeah, exactly.
It says of the Gene Wilder classic.
We know why you love the classic.
Yeah.
This is more of this.
Yeah.
And maybe even a little bit sweeter, maybe a little bit more innocent, which is a lovely thing. Although I know you did catch a movie over Christmas. What did you go see?
Next goal wins.
Well, I'm
telling you, a highlight of my movie going year.
I thought you were going to get yourself into lots of family troubles there by saying it was the highlight of your Christmas. Well,
I'm smarter than that.
I am so pleased to hear you that because you're one of about 27 people who have gone to see this movie over Christmas, and it's such a pity. I think it's just that, with Wish and Wonka being two such big, massive family movies, families have gone to see those, and they maybe haven't got around to seeing Next Goal Wins.
Probably more of a timing issue more than anything.
Absolutely.
A bad choice with the release date.
Yeah, if it came out in February when there's no other family movies, I think it would do well. And it's based on an absolutely brilliant documentary, which is actually, you can get on TV at the moment, called Next Goal Wins, and it's about American Samoa, who were considered the worst football team.
Well, they were the worst. They were the worst. Bottom ranked in the world.
Bottom ranked in the world. They'd lost 31-0 to Australia, and they were a running joke.
Yeah. And
they asked for help, and this coach came out and he tried to help them. Now, Rory, is it fair to say when you saw the fiction, the funny version of it, that there's a few bits in it you just went, that can't be true?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And I know because you're a fellow nerd, you went up, looked it up and went, what? Wow, all the stuff, we don't want to give it away, really. Yeah. But if families went to see it, then it is a 12A. It's not for very little people. There's a few rude words and stuff as the coach Michael Fassbender's the coach, as he gets frustrated with them. But all the stuff you'll go, typical Hollywood, putting that bit in.
Yeah.
Absolutely 100% true. It's the more normal, everyday drama stuff that's made up.
Yeah.
The real eye-opener, jaw-dropping stuff. It's all true.
It all really happened.
Really happened.
And what really stood out for me was I've never seen Michael Fassbender do comedy. We were talking about this off air. Yep. I've never seen him do comedy before, and he's really very naturally funny.
Yeah, well, I suppose there's his Irish genes for you, you know?
Exactly.
But he does do it right, and as we said, he plays it straight. He lets the other characters be wild and funny and have the culture clash.
He's the classic, straight man surrounded by crazy people.
Yeah, and there is
that's why it works so well.
Yeah, and there's a touch of sort of cool runnings about it, isn't it? Because they're all the football team are kind of wild characters, and he's trying to be very European and very sort of coach and Jose Mourinho sort of straight down the line, and it's the culture clash that makes it funny. But I'm really glad you saw it because I thought it was really enjoyable.
And it's a really, you come away from that movie feeling really good.
Yeah,
it's a real feel-good story, which is sometimes what you need in the depths of winter, the dark evening. Well,
I don't think it's a coincidence that Wonka's done very well for the same reason. So as well, there's a comedy called Anyone But You, which stars a couple of TV stars, really. Sydney Sweeney from Euphoria. It's a teen comedy, but we didn't expect it to do much at all. It's been a massive hit because, do you know what it is? It's two beautiful people having a good time in Australia. And maybe and it feel good, and everyone's going to fall in love at the end, and nobody's going to die, and all that sort of stuff. And maybe it shows you that the movies that are doing well at the moment, in the depths of winter, are those sort of movies. This time last year, we talked about a movie called A Man Called Otto, which was the same sort of thing, real feel good. And that's probably what people need. You know, we're coming up to a season of real dramatic stuff, but at the moment, people need,
Well, you think of all the horrors that are going on in the world. You look at social media, you look at the news, you listen to the news, and you think of all the terrible things that are going on in people's lives and around the world. Movies should be about an escape.
Absolutely.
And that's why these movies are ticking these boxes for people, I think.
Yeah, I think so. When things are, lovely and dull and boring, we all want to see dark sci-fi and that sort of stuff. But when things aren't great in the world, I think this is what we have, and it's escape. And if I have time to talk, I should talk about one of the new releases. It's called One Life. It's another true story. You may have seen the famous clip from That's Life in the 80s, where there's a man who rescued a load of children from the Nazis.
Oh, yes.
And they asked them to stand up around them. This is the fiction version. It's just come out. It just came out on New Year's Day. And again, I would highly recommend it to somebody looking for maybe a more grown-up but a feel-good movie. It is... his name is Nicholas Winton. And he was a civil servant. He was a stockbroker, and he did a bit of civil service. And he went to visit Prague and saw the refugees there and said, I've got to do something to help. And it's all about the power of ordinary people to help. And again, you were talking about what's going on in the world. No, don't worry, nobody's going to get a lecture on politics for a year. But this movie would have been made, set to be made 4 years ago. They didn't know what was going to go on in the world. Pre-Gaza, pre-Ukraine. But you just watch it and you just can't help but think, this is talking to us, our situation right now. But it's also all about, it's not what governments do, it's what we can do ourselves. We can only do tiny bits, but if we all do a tiny bit, it can add so much. The tagline is save one life, save the world. And it really made me feel emboldened coming out of it. I would highly recommend it to anyone.
So that's One Life. That's in theatres now at the moment.
It's right at the moment. Anthony Hopkins plays the Nicholas Winton as an older man. But most of the story is in Prague. It's very moving. It's not graphic in what's happening to people, but it's very moving. In some ways, he was kind of the English Oscar Schindler from Schindler's List. Yeah. But it is a wonderful movie. I think this is for over 12s, but I think people will really enjoy it.
So there's quite a bit on offer in theatres at the moment. So we've got obviously Wonka for the family. We've got Next Gold Wins, Anyone But You. And One Life. So there's quite a bit there. There's
quite a bit there. And then we're coming into Oscar season, award season. And between yourself and your 30,000 listeners, I have to say, I'm going to be out for a couple of weeks for medical reasons, and I'm so upset because there's such interesting movies coming up. We've got Poor Things, which I think is going to be this year's Banshees of Inisherin, in that people are either going to absolutely love it or they're going to despise it.
Well, hold that thought, right, because we have to take a quick break, but we're going to talk about a few of those in more depth in just a few minutes' time. 12 minutes to midday. We are talking movies with Collie McFadgen, and we are now going to move on to what's coming up over the next month or so. Now, you have a few you want to talk about, Collie. The first one we have is Poor Things. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, which stars Emma Stone, and it's from the people who made The Favourite and The Killing of the Sacred Deer. So quite odd art movies. And it's actually made with Irish money. It's actually technically an Irish movie, even though it's the Greek director. And I was driving up the hill, right up to Highland Radio today, and I'm going, I have no idea how to pronounce this, but I'm going to go for it. Yorgos Lanthimos, I think, is how you pronounce his name. And
you've rehearsed that.
Yeah.
Of course
in the car. But I don't know if it's right. Talking to myself, as usual. But he made one of the best movies I've ever seen, called Dogtooth. And he makes really weird art movies. And this movie's it's basically sexy Frankenstein to a certain extent.
Right.
She died, and she's rebuilt by Willem Dafoe. but she's like a newborn in an adult body, and she decides she's going to experience everything from gluttony to sexuality to violence and everything like this. And it's a real awards contender, but it will not be for everyone. It's an 18s movie. It won't be for everyone. But there are people here who've seen things like The Lobster or Killing Sacred Deer or The Favourite who absolutely love this sort of thing. And as I said, those who don't like it are absolutely, they won't even hate it. They'll just walk out and go, what in God's name was that thing? It's one of those movies, and that's this time of year, which I'm a big fan of.
Yeah.
As much as I love the blockbusters, and I was raving about Wonka and all those sort of movies, and I'm a man who can't wait for Paddington 3, but I like the full menu, and I love the odd stuff. Having said that, the same day, next Friday, we get The Boys in the Boat, which, for people who go, they don't make movies like that anymore. They do, and this is The Boys in the Boat, which is the story of the Harvard rowing team who went to the 1936 Olympics. So basically, if you like the Chariots of Fire,
I was just going to say it's got Chariots of Fire vibes about it. Yeah,
absolutely, exactly that sort of classic movie, the sort of movie that would have been an Oscar contender in years past. Probably not now, because it's probably a wee bit too sincere in the sort of feel good story that it is. But it's directed by George Clooney, and people have really enjoyed it. It's one
of his first. Into directing,
no, I think he's directed before. I think he directed Good Night and Good Luck before. But this sports movie is the sort of movie that it won't get good votes from the critics, but the audience scores have been really high. It's one of those, and I think people, for an old-fashioned movie, again, Chariots of Fire is Chariots of Fire on the ocean is the way to call that. So that's an interesting one.
So when is that out?
That's out next Friday. Both these movies are out next Friday, and the following Wednesday we have a big one for people of a certain age. Now, I am honestly of the opinion, I want to make fetch happen, that Mean Girls is one of the greatest movies ever made. And I say that not ironically at all. I honestly think it's brilliant. I used to run a summer camp. We used to watch that movie all the time. Kids from all over the world used to watch that movie. I've seen it maybe 50 times. It's a great movie.
I've seen it once.
Well, that was not nearly enough.
I thought it was okay.
Yeah.
I was a former co-presenter of mine here a couple of years ago. She was always on about Mean Girls, and you have to watch it. And she challenged me on air. She gave me homework one night to watch Mean Girls. So I begrudgingly watched it, and I didn't hate it. I didn't love it.
Yeah.
It was okay. I don't see the appeal. That's so maybe this new version.
I do see that, and to be fair though, that is always an awful way to put it. I remember watching Dirty Dancing the same way, being challenged by my cousin who had seen it 7 times, and then talked through it, quoting it, which didn't help.
We all know someone
Whereas
like that.
I watched Mean Girls the first time expecting that I would hate it, that it was a movie for girls, and I ended up loving it. So sometimes that's how you go into the movie.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But this is actually, even though they don't show it on the trailer, this is not a remake of Mean Girls as much as it's a film of the musical that's been on stage in Broadway and in the West End for a while. So it is
a la Hairspray.
Exactly. Okay. You nailed it, and the producers. Yeah. That's exactly it. It was a movie, then they made a stage musical, and now they're making the movie of it. But I never understand this. In the trailer, they don't show the songs. I don't know why they think of.
Yeah, no, I would. Yeah, you would forgive somebody for thinking that this is just a cash grab, a remake.
A remake.
Yeah.
So it is something different. I believe the musical is great, and people say they don't love. Musicals don't do well anymore. Wonka is technically a musical. Most Disney films, certainly the cartoons, are musicals, and certainly There's things like Mamma Mia. Most people wouldn't think of Mamma Mia as a musical. It's just a film with lots of songs in it. And of course it is. And I'm really curious to see this. As somebody who's a Mean Girl fan, now, as a 50-year-old bloke, I shouldn't be, but I just am. And it was the one movie running a summer camp for internationals. It was a surf summer camp for teens from Spain, America, Ireland, all over, boys and girls. One of the few movies they could all agree on was Mean Girls, so that's why that's why it's so close to my heart. Because all the Spanish boys would want to just watch Fast and Furious, and the American girls want to watch something else. But we would all agree on Mean Girls. And funny enough, 10 Things I Hate About You. They were the two. They were the two movies. So we watched them so many times. I'm really curious to see how this does. Will it get another audience, or will it be the audience of people who loved Mean Girls 20 years ago? It's 20 years since Mean Girls.
I know.
that will come back.
That in itself is horrifying.
We'll come back and see it. And, I don't know if your ex-presenter friend, maybe we should get her to text in for a guest review.
Possibly, yeah, and see what she thinks. That is out January 12th.
This is out the 17th. So
17th here, okay.
So it's a preview in a couple of days early. So that'll be an interesting one to see.
Very interesting one to watch. And then obviously then we're coming into Oscar season, award season. The Golden Globe nominations out yesterday. The big hitters from last year are there. Oppenheimer's there. It's up for Best Picture. The Killers of the Flower Moon.
Yep.
And we also have for Best Cinematic and Box Office Achievement. What else? Barbie. Barbie's there. John Wick's there. Mission Impossible, Oppenheimer, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. So, we'll be keeping a close eye because usually the Golden Globes are a good indicator of what the Academy Awards.
Give us a feeling of who's, particularly in the acting roles, because they kind of split them up into comedy roles. So Emma Stone is going to be, for Poor Things, is going to be in the comedy award, whereas Lily Gladstone for Killers of the Flower Moon is going to be in the drama. But in the Oscars, they will be up against each other. And it's always interesting. But it's going to be the big hitters. As you said, Oppenheimer, Killer Moon, there's a lovely Korean movie called Past Lives that's going to do very well, and possibly Poor Things. But what'll be interesting to see is Hollywood is desperate to do something for Barbie, but they're kind of saying, can you give awards?
Where does it fit in?
Where does it fit in? Because it's comedy, but it's and it'd be interesting to see how Barbie does. I think it might win a few awards, and one that we raved about last year, Across the Spider-Verse.
Maybe raise a few eyebrows.
Well,
who knows?
Well, there's a lot of raised eyebrows in Hollywood. Botox.
True. Exactly. Well, that's where we have to leave it for today. Collie, we will talk to you next month. Will it be in person? Will it be virtually?
Who knows?
Who can tell? Either way, we will be talking to you next month, and we'll be talking more about what's coming up and Oscars and all the rest and everything that goes with it. That's where I have to wrap things up for this morning as well. Thanks to everyone who got in touch with the show with requests, dedications, suggestions for music. Thanks to Liam for his help on the programme as well.